and welcome to City Pulse, an advocacy program brought to you by Housing TV Africa in collaboration with the Nigerian Institute of Town Planners, a distinguished urban planning association recognized in Nigeria and globally. I am Obarabi Omobo. Today we focus on a crucial issue that affects housing, economic growth and urban development, talking about the land administration in Nigeria, reforms, challenges and solutions. For many Nigerians, acquiring land is a long and complicated process filled with bureaucratic delays, disputes and legal uncertainties. Beyond legal frameworks, there are also concerns about digitization, corruption in land allocation, and inefficiencies in our land registration system. These challenges impact everything from real estate development to business investment and even personal home ownership. How can we reform the system to make land ownership easier and more transparent? What role do urban planners and policymakers play in shaping a better future? We'll be joined by an expert to explore all these questions and more in today's discussion. Stay tuned.
Visit Housing TV Africa on YouTube and click on the subscribe button. Subscribe to Housing TV Africa to stay updated on latest happenings in Nigeria's housing sector. Follow our social media pages, like and share our posts on Facebook, Housing TV Africa, on Twitter, Housing TV Africa, Instagram, Housing TV Africa. Join the conversation and keep up with latest housing updates.
Welcome back. You're watching City Pulse on Housing TV Africa. Our guest for today is town planner Nathaniel Atebije, FNITP, immediate past president of the Nigerian Institute of Town Planners. It's an honor to have you here.
Thanks for inviting me again. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So I wanted to just get right into it immediately. So I think we can start this conversation. We need to start this conversation with the Land Use Act of 1978.
Okay.
Because it's still in active till now. So I want to ask, how has this law influenced land ownership and administration over the years? And in your opinion, should it be amended or repealed?
Okay. Thank you very much. These are so many questions at a point. But I think maybe we'll unbundle them and take them one after the other. But let me first of all draw our attention to the fact that among the factors of production, which is land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship, the first among them, and which is the most important, is land. Why? Because land is fixed, more or less. It's fixed, that we cannot actually increase it in size. Yes, through science, through technology, we are building on seas now, but when you compare the cost of recovering land from water bodies before you build, it's awesome. It's highly unaffordable. Therefore, the land we have, we need to manage it. And let me also say that, on the surface of the earth, on the totality of the earth, almost 70–75% of it is covered by waters and all areas that are not developable. So the solid part of land that we have, which is available to humanity for development, is about 25%. Now, out of this 25%, you have some places that are so high or so deep that you cannot develop. You have deserts that is not very easy to develop because of the climatic conditions. There are also some areas that are so cold that we cannot develop. So when you discount all those, the amount of land that you have on the surface of the earth that is good for active development could be about 10%, 15%. And every day, the population of humanity is increasing. Now we are talking about over 7 billion people living on the surface of the earth. And the population is not reducing. Therefore, we must manage. We need this land to build houses. We need to make food, cultivate agricultural purposes. and so many other things that we need to do with this land. So it is important for us to manage this land, and that is where physical planning comes in. Now, I'm just taking these things from the rudiments so that we know the reason why we had the land use decree. Now, having said that, if the only way you can effectively manage a resource which you have is to plan it, anybody who is planning is thinking not just about today, but is thinking also about the future. They are thinking about the next generation. Now, they used to say that, politicians think about the next 4 years. That is their turnaround time. But those who are thinking about the next generation, those who are thinking about growth, development, really are thinking about the next generation. What are we living? And that is what you call sustainable development. You are not thinking about what you are going to have today. You are thinking about what the next generation will have. Because if the people that were here before us mismanaged this land, we won't meet it where we are. And perhaps some of us will not have been on the surface of the earth today. Fine. So, at a point, we discovered that we had various land tenure systems in various parts of Nigeria. In the north, land was public property belonging to the people, while in the southern part of Nigeria, we had freehold, that it belongs to people, it belongs to the families, it belongs to clans, and it is not something that anybody can pounce on it. And these things were beginning to affect development, which we needed so much and we still need. And so government, particularly for government projects, they'll have to go through the eye of the needle. Or even, foreigners who might be interested in investing in Nigeria will have to go through the eye of the needle to be able to convince the local people, the owners of the land, to be able to get land. And so the government of the day in 1978, well, it was a military regime, decided that they should enact that decree, which we call the Land Use Decree. And that Land Use Decree principally was aimed at harmonizing land tenure systems, making access to land easier so that development can be facilitated. So that was the reason. But again, we'll touch on that one later. 1978 till now is getting close to about, it's over 40 years. Yeah. It's getting close to 50 years. And any law, the situations in 1978 are not the same as what we have today. Things have changed, technologies have changed, the tastes of people have changed, the economy has changed, and the population itself has changed. So we must, and we cannot keep that same law without tampering with it, so that we meet the contemporary needs of the society, because we are living in a very dynamic society, So let me for now say that yes, there is need for amending the Land Use Decree or the Land Use Act, but we shall touch on that one maybe in the course of this discussion.
Okay, thank you so much for that. So I think I still needed to address the issue of how has it affected land ownership over the years since, because you mentioned that 50 years is a very long time, and so how has it affected land ownership from that time to this point?
Yes, okay. It has in a way affected land ownership because in some places it has made it a little bit easier to have access to land, particularly when it is for public interest. When it is for public interest, it is easier now that the negotiation procedure is a little bit better. Not like before that, communities, clans, and individual families, have to drag government to a level. But if it is now for public interest, it is easy. It has been made easier to acquire.
Okay.
Now, the only major issue that is there is that for you to acquire such land for development, the natural thing or the normal thing that should be done is for it to, first of all, be planned. And so, yes, even as it's becoming a bit easier for government to acquire plants, these plants, to acquire land, most of the places that are getting land, they are more or less inappropriate places. Why? Because many of the towns, cities, and rural areas are not planned. Now, we were discussing with somebody yesterday, and he said that, for example, this Renewed Hope Homes or Renewed Hope Housing Program, the land that was given for the project in one of the states, that the thing is on the outskirts of the town. It's a little bit far away from where many other people can access them. And this is the same scenario that has repeated itself. You remember when we had the Shagari housing scheme, most of them were built at the outskirts of the town. Why? Because the towns were not planned. And because of that, they didn't know the appropriate place to put land for housing. And so, while it has been made a bit better, easier to acquire land through this process, it is also still clumsy, and it doesn't give us the right results because these places are not planned. So for it to be of good effect, for it to have the real impact that we need, it is important that these towns and cities or rural areas are first of all planned.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. So you looked at it from the area of public ownership, public land ownership. What about personal land ownership? Has it been made easier for people that want to acquire land? And the planning also, is it also, personal land ownership, is it also integrated in this planning problem for this issue?
Yes, the Land Use Act covers every form of ownership. It covers every form of ownership. So it has more or less made it equitable. That is to say that everybody has access to it. Not like before that it was just in the hands of few people. Everybody now has access to it. Individuals can go, institutions can go, business people can go, and so on and so forth. Now, again, back to what I was saying, where it has become a little bit tough is because everything stops at the desk of the governor. That is the major challenge we have with the Act. Everything stops at the desk of the governor. But then if you look at the urban development policy of Nigeria, it has, the development policy of Nigeria, we have urban areas, we have rural areas. Now, when you look at the Nigerian Urban and Regional Planning Law, it distinguishes the urban areas from the rural areas. And that is to say that there is a marriage of two categories of settlements, the urban areas and the rural areas. Now, when we allow some measure of integration between, or a little form of autonomy between the urban and the regional, it will make the process a little bit better in the sense that it is not everybody that needs land that must end up in the governor's office. Urban areas, for me, if you ask the governor to manage the urban areas, and then you allow people at the local level, particularly the local government chairman, to manage those at the rural areas, it makes the process a bit less cumbersome. It makes it less cumbersome. So what we are saying is that even if we are going to talk about any amendment, if need be, the first thing is how to integrate the authority of the rural areas with that of the urban areas. Let us differentiate between them a little. But what is basic to all of them is that before any land is allocated, it must have a plan. It must have a plan. And then, like I said, if the governor is going to manage the urban areas, there should also be a provision that there's a threshold of the amount of land that the local government officials can also manage. That is to say, maybe no local government chairman or so can give a title of anything more than 1 hectare at a time. Because any development that is of that magnitude will have to go through a deeper study of the environmental and social impact assessment. And it means that you need to involve greater experts in terms of development. So that even if it is a development in a rural area, we will not leave it completely for the local government chairman to handle, but beyond a threshold, I mean, we can determine that one as appropriate. Beyond a threshold, and depending upon the type of use also, you know, that may have to go to a higher authority for adjudication.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.